Welcome to the first Peppers Echo of 2022. My name is Andre, and I'd like to wish you all a prosperous and blessed new year. Today, I want to look back a little over 2021 in South Africa and share some of my experiences throughout 2021. I'm not one for New Year's resolutions, but I would like to share my thoughts and goals for 2022. I'm no professor or fortune teller, but maybe look at what the new year will be holding in for us. It's always fun to speculate, and as I'm not a gambling man, I won't be placing any bets. So without ado, let's kick off for the past year. And has it been a year? It's been a year of challenges for many, sadness and heartache, but it's also been a year where the human race have been tenacious and come through triumphantly. COVID has been a major player in the last year, which just doesn't seem to have given up haunting us. The Delta variant thrashed many around the world, not only in South Africa. As we thought it was starting to subside, Omicron raised its absolutely nasty, horrid head. The sales of alcohol, as usual, has always been the first patient in the lockdown of COVID situations. I always wonder if the actual outcry from the majority was really in support of the liquor store owners and the workers, or just because they could not get their hands on their precious intoxicating alcohol. Lockdowns came, schools were closed, jobs were lost, and hospitals were full to the brim. COVID has not only damaged people by being a pandemic that is life-threatening, but it has also been a pandemic that has split people, turning people against each other and creating conspiracies and denials. The floodgates for speculation, keyboard warriors, Facebook and social media doctors and lawyers have been rife. Conspiracies have been flung far and wide. It has been long, if ever I've seen, other than politics, a divide between the nations like this, or people like this. Yes, I'm referring to the great vaccination debacle. Social media, Facebook and YouTube channels have flared with rioting and anti-vaxxing. Most of you know who've watched Peppers Echo how I feel about vaccination, and I'm not going to pelt it out here. All that I want to mention is something that I read again the other day, and it rang true in my mind. You are free to make any decision you want. However, you are not free from the consequences of your decisions, be they good, be they bad, happy, or sad. I'm a smoker, and after the 80s, when the world went mad about anti-smoking, there have been many restaurants that do not allow for cater for smokers. Smoking is my decision, and the consequence is that if I want to frequent an establishment that I can smoke in, I will have to find one that allows it. And many a time, I've walked through a mall asking if a place has a smoking area and being turned away until I eventually found one where I could quietly have my coffee and a cigarette. None of the restaurants died or went out of business due to me not going there, and I did not badmouth them either, because as much as what I expected them to respect my choices, I had to respect theirs too. But no restaurant, and not my life, were changed in the least. We will leave that there. In February, our dear Port Elizabeth had its name changed to Quebec, with Uitenhage, Kariga, and Port Elizabeth Airport to Chief David Stearman International Airport. What a mouthful. But even more, what a bag full of money our dear ANC kicked off the year in the middle of a pandemic, throwing money at utterly unnecessary projects that not one has agreed to or wanted. I was actually looking to book flights just this last week, and on all the travel agency sites, the name Port Elizabeth and Port Elizabeth Airport still remains. In March, a middle-aged man is killed after he is hit in the head by a rubber bullet from police during a riot against the high cost of University of the Witwatersrand. BLM raised its nasty head as events and businesses and even sports were drawn into this vile circle of offenses, forcing people to kneel before the events. The woke and offended really went on the warpath, and this year it is actually mad to think that this is what the world is coming to. LGBTQTS, GW, BV, whatever, or something like that, which need to be identified by pronoun. So much so that Hollywood can hardly make a decent movie due to trying to kiss the asses of all the offended. Even James Bond doesn't know who he is anymore. I don't believe I have the right to judge, and I don't say that I agree with everything. But there is either a man or a woman, straight or gay. How much more difficult do people want to make it? Or has the world just become one offended planet? King Goodwill Zwelithini died, and towards the end of March, Queen Matafumbi Dlamini was named his regent, which also didn't last long, and back into court everyone went. The end of March, President Cyril Ramaphosa called on the members of the ANC who had been charged with corruption or serious crimes to step aside within 30 days or face suspension. Well, we all know what happened there. There was an ace up the sleeve. In April, there was the terrible fire on Table Mountain that burned right down to the UCT library. In May, Zuma's corruption charges were set to begin, and yes, in the end, he was sent to jail, but then decided to take sick leave from jail. Apparently, he's gone back again, but you know how these things go into government. They will still have many days and hours of Kentucky face feeding meetings about the situation. In July, there was major rioting that broke out in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, resulting in stalls and malls being broken into and ransacked in broad daylight. The hungry that had to steal food apparently had to steal refrigerators to pack the food into, as well as televisions to keep the children busy while they were preparing the food. November saw municipal elections that disturbed the ANC somewhat. Even though fewer voters came out to vote, there were many metropolitans that were the main ones that the ANC lost, and saw, even shockingly, the EFF voting in line with rivals. Next time, the ANC is going to have to hand out more T-shirts and bigger food parcels. In August, it was a time for the great games to captivate the world. Yes, people were glued to their TVs just to get a glimpse of the Squid Games. Oh, yes. And there was also the Olympic Games, where South Africa's very own Tatiana Schoenmaker shone some light and hope, even if it was just the sun reflecting off the gold medal that the whole country was so proud of. We also greeted some great people in 2021, and even though I'm only mentioning 2 years, I know that there were far more people that passed in 2021 that were admired and loved, and even if it was as a father, a husband, a mentor, or a friend. We bid farewell to former State President F.W. de Klerk, who had played a vital role in the history of South Africa. Also Archbishop Desmond Tutu, one of the last good men that fought for freedom and peace without revenge and resentment. So what has this last year made me look at differently going into 2022? With so many situations, events, things, and changes happening, and all so fast, so many people have been near and dear to me personally and have passed. I've had to balance the books and note that time is not on our side. What is to be done needs to be done today. What needs to be buried needs to be buried today. What needs to be forgiven needs to be forgiven today. And what needs to be loved needs to be loved today. I'd like you to take a look at this short video, and I hope I don't get a copyright cap on it, but it is brilliant in what explains that the time to do something is now.
You know, Sigmund Freud said that one of the bases of neuroses was the fact that all of us think that we are immortal and we're going to live forever, and that we're constantly putting things off for tomorrow. You know, during the Vietnam War, one of the young ladies in my classes came in and she threw this little poem on my desk, and I want to share it with you. She called it Things You Didn't Do. And she says this: remember the day I borrowed your brand new car and I dented it? I thought you'd kill me, but you didn't. And the time I dragged you to the beach and you said it would rain, and it did. I thought you'd say, I told you so, but you didn't. And the time I flirted with all the guys to make you jealous, and you were. I thought you'd leave me, but you didn't. And do you remember the time I spilled blueberry pie all over your brand new car rug? I thought you'd smack me, but you didn't. And the time I forgot to tell you that the dance was formal and you showed up in jeans? I thought you'd leave me forever, but you didn't. Yes, there were lots of things you didn't do, but you put up with me, and you loved me, and protected me. And there were so many things I wanted to make up to you when you got back from Vietnam, but you didn't. Go ahead and put it off. Go ahead and wait for tomorrow. If there's something that needs to be done, you do it now, because tomorrow may never be there. And especially is that true in human relationships. Don't wait. The time for life is now. The time for love is now. The time to do is now, not tomorrow.
Okay. A little bit of a mind picker. So tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. You don't need to leave a legend or a legacy, just a smile in the hearts of those that remember you. Stop planning your new year on new year cars and new houses and new material things, and start looking at your emotional and spiritual and mental well-being. Look at those around you, and if you have nothing to give, at least give them a smile. Stop gossiping about the people behind their back, no matter how much they speak badly behind yours. They are not worth the space in your mind. Read your Bible and stop blaming others for the lack of your relationship with God. God loves you for who you are. Accept it for a change and stop rebelling by blaming everyone and everything. Your mind is one of the strongest magnets ever, and it will draw you in the direction of your thoughts. If you expect and think about and entertain everything that has, can, or will go wrong with you, why are you surprised that you're so miserable? Stop resenting those around you and find gratitude in what you have. I had to go into hospital 2 days before Christmas for kidney stones. I couldn't afford the nice private clinic and ended up having to go to a clinic that was converted from an old karaoke club. The rooms were what used to be separate karaoke rooms. And there was still decor on the walls. There's like plates and funny little things, etc., etc. It seemed to be clean compared to what many had said other public clinics and hospitals were. There was no nurse or nurse's station on the floor. There was no panic bell, just a number stuck up against the wall if you wanted to get hold of a nurse or something. You weren't wheeled into the operating theater. They called you and you picked up your drip in the one hand and walked down the stairs to the operating theater, and you got into the bed by yourself. They couldn't put me out, so they had to do an epidural injection into the spine. My wife spent the night on a plastic couch next to my bed, as I couldn't walk after coming out, and there was no one to change my drips when they finished. It was very scary and fairly traumatic. But here is what I was grateful for. The same doctor who would have done the operation in the private clinic did the operation in the public clinic. Just to give you an idea, the private clinic would have cost me $6,000. I think it's 84,000 Rand if you had to put it into Rand. The public clinic cost me $1,600, which still came to about 24,000 Rand. There may not have been much in the public clinic, but this is what I learned to be grateful for. They did their best. They were friendly, positive and kind. It may not have been the best building, but they seemed to keep it as clean as they could. And the doctor, as I said, who would have operated me in the private clinic, still did it in the public clinic. So what I'm trying to say is angels don't always appear in gardens and sunsets and dressed in silk and linen and robes. Sometimes they appear in poor public clinics as underpaid, hardworking people that do their best to get you through. After blasting away at a 27 millimeter and a 12 millimeter kidney stone, I was in for over 2 hours. Then they put in a stent and I was able to come out on Christmas Eve. Sometimes you just need to be taken away from what you have to appreciate what you've got. I had a lovely Christmas and a New Year with my special family. It's a word for friends, but we're more like family. I've opted with my wife to sit down and write out as many things as we can think of that we would like to achieve, change, or do in the new year. Not material, but actual. Of those, we chose 3, and that is what we will look at every evening after supper and work hard to progress. The others will be there as stepping stones, but we are starting with just the 3 very personal steps, and those I will keep to myself. So what do I think of the coming 2022? I think that maybe we'll have to learn to live with COVID, not in fear, but as we have with all other viruses and illnesses. I think life might start to return to normal again. We should be able to breathe, that we should be able to see our loved ones again, that once we see what was taken away from us, we will learn to appreciate what we have and not always want. My New Year's wish to you all is that you love yourself as well as others, that you are so filled with happiness that you can't help but share it, that you realize that giving doesn't always cost something, that it can be giving a smile, giving a chance, be it to someone or even to yourself, that you would stop blaming and start embracing, and that your New Year's resolutions will benefit you spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. For those who've watched Pepper's Echo throughout the last year, I thank you. And I hope to keep it going as we go along forward. From my side, a happy and a blessed new year. Take care, be good, and if you can't be good, at least be kind. Cheers.